Yesterday on the program, I spent this time, 20 minutes, talking about an article that I read in the Federalist, and I wanted to get the author on. His name is Spencer Lindquist. He's a college student from Pepperdine University and an intern at the Federalist, and he wrote a fantastic column that I think everyone should read. The left has a pedophilia problem, and it's out in the open. Let's go to Spencer. Hi, Spencer.
Hi, thank you for having me on today.
You bet. I found your article not just fascinating, but incredibly brave. You're exposing things that the left does. I mean, it is part of their religion. I really, truly believe it's part of their religion, and they don't want it discussed the way you did.
Well, thank you. That's absolutely right. And what we're seeing right now is that the left's ideology is completely devoid of any form of limiting principle. So they have degraded the sexual ethic of our country and of our civilization ever since the sexual revolution. And right now, the latest casualty in that revolution is going to be the innocence of children if the right does not put a stop to this.
So let me ask, Spencer, is there anything more degrading than that? I mean, I think we're at the bottom of the slippery slope, the one that they said didn't exist.
I think it's turning out that the slope is less of a slope and more of a cliff.
Yeah.
And we are tumbling down to that breakneck speed. And the way that we are seeing this attempt to normalize pedophilia, I mean, we're seeing this. There was a New York Times article the other day that referred to the rape of a 13-year-old as trading sex. This is a homeless 13-year-old. And this was referred to as trading sex. I've had conversations with people through my work with my YouTube channel called The Pendulum, where people have told me at Pride Parades that they are, quote, down for the kink with kids. We are seeing horrible, horrible pushes to normalize pedophilia from outlets like New York Times, The Washington Post, Vice. This is a coordinated push, and this is a top-down push from elite interests in our society.
I'm just looking at the articles from Vice. Are they the worst offender of this? Because there's, 10 articles here. This 8-year-old drag queen doesn't care what the haters say. Photos of the fabulous kids of RuPaul's drag convention. Meet the child stars of the controversial new wave of drag. A pedophile opens up about being targeted by vigilantes. A child rape victim on why society should be more empathetic to pedophiles. Most child sex abusers are not pedophiles, experts say. I spent a year with a non-offending pedophile. I mean, how about this one? The current misconception is that every pedophile is a child molester, and if they're not, it's just a matter of time. It's important to show the world that that is just not the case. Those are all from Vice.
And in one of those articles, they were discussing the idea of non-offending pedophiles. And one of the pedophiles who they cited in that piece had actually been a foster parent and had been accused of raping a young girl. So what they are doing is not only irresponsible because they're well aware of the consequences. And this is not about tolerance or acceptance or love is love. Those are all rhetorical tools that are being used to advocate for the normalization of pedophilia. And if weak conservatives grant them that frame that this is about tolerance and acceptance, then we are not going to do the exact thing that conservatives are tasked with doing. If we cannot conserve the innocence of youth, we have no business calling ourselves conservatives in the first place.
I don't know what's happening to my fellow Americans. All this stuff is going on, and we don't seem to do anything about it. We're just starting to, I guess, accept it as inevitable.
I think what we have to realize as a country is that these small bites that have been taken out of our ethics, out of our belief in really just basic decency, let alone religious faith, and the wave of secularization, is that these small bites will never stop. And one day we will wake up and we'll see exactly what's going on right now happening on an even larger scale. I mean, we have academics in Ivy League institutions. There is an associate professor named Joe Fischel. And he, in a piece called Keep Pride Nude, he argued that children should be exposed to adult nudity, to indecent exposure at Pride parades. So we are seeing this from some of the most powerful institutions in our society, from powerful media outlets like the Washington Post and the New York Times to the premier academic institutions like Yale, Ivy League institutions. And we need to understand that this is a top-down push. The American people do not want this. There is no grassroots desire for this. This is something that has been foisted on us by the elites in our country, and it seems that they have some sort of vested interest in quickly normalizing pedophilia.
As the GQ writer over in the UK, someone needs to create porn for children. Hear me out. Young teens are already watching porn, but they're finding hardcore aggressive videos that give terrible view of sex. They need entry-level porn, a softcore site where everyone asks for consent and no one gets choked.
Absolutely, absolutely disgusting. And the one thing I think that we can be thankful about is that they are so out in the open about this. They are so out in the open. They have become emboldened, and they believe that this is something that the American people are going to accept. But what it is it's a humiliation ritual, quite frankly, because they think that if we'll accept this, then what won't we accept? What agenda will we not accept if the degradation of our youth is allowed to continue?
I don't think there's been a time in American history where the youth have been in more danger than right now. You send them to school where they're supposed to be taught the things that we all supposedly believe in. They're taught to hate their country. They're taught to either say they can't make it because they're not white, or if they are white, that they are responsible and should be guilty all the time. Then they get online and they can see and engage in anything. Pedophiles are now openly coming out, and we are the society is being numbed to the point to where we're not standing up about this. And I have to tell you, can you think of a time in American history, any time in American history, where our children were in this much danger?
None whatsoever. I can't think of any time in our history that children have been in so much danger. And quite frankly, what we need to do, and one of the first steps of this solution, is to cast off any form of belief that the insults or the framing that the left uses is legitimate or in good faith in the slightest, because it isn't. When you're called a homophobe or a bigot, you have to understand that these are buzzwords that are used to try and threaten your livelihood, threaten your career, threaten your reputation. But there's a whole lot more at risk than just our reputations or our careers. The future of our country is at risk. The innocence of America's children is at risk. And if we don't stand up for that, then we have no business calling ourselves conservatives. This is one of the defining fights of our time.
One of the things in your article that I was not aware of was the San Francisco Gay Men's Chorus. And they performed a song with, I thought, pretty revealing lyrics. You think we'll corrupt your kids if our agenda goes unchecked? Fine. Just this once, you're correct. Then they followed up with, we'll convert your children, happens bit by bit, quietly and subtly, and you'll barely notice it. Now, they say that this is a joke, but I think the left always does this. They'll say, this was just an academic paper, or this was a joke. But in this case, you seem to present evidence that it is definitely not a joke, at least to a lot of people in this choir.
It very much seems that it is not a joke in the slightest. The two people that actually wrote the song, they recently wrote a play that's all about bachabazi, which translates to boy play, and that is a very, very disgusting tradition in certain areas of the Middle East. Where
can you without becoming graphic explain what that is?
So bachabazi translates to boy play, and essentially there are young boys who are groomed to dance for men, and it goes farther than just dancing. But they built an entire play around this. And then these are the people who are writing this song, and we're supposed to believe that this is just a joke. This is not a joke. This is not a joke. And there is a consistent trend of this happening in society. So once they got called out on it, they tried to walk it back. We cannot let them walk it back. This is disgusting. We have to call it out for what it is.
So who is the main source? Who should we be looking at to, I don't know, boycott, speak out? What should we do? Because it doesn't seem like anybody in Washington is doing anything about anything.
The first thing that we have to do is, for all the parents out there, you have to understand that your children's mind, your children's safety, your children's future is at risk. And our first responsibility is to our youth and to defending the youth in your life who you have the ability to guide and protect. And past that, there is no way around this other than to engage in social shaming. People who say that we should be sexualizing children, they should have no seat at the table. If there's any use for cancel culture, it is for people who are pushing for the normalization of pedophilia. This is completely intolerable and has to be treated as such.
Why do you feel so passionately about this? I mean, you know, there's a ton of things going on, and you don't hear a lot of people talking about this. Is it just because nobody's talking about it?
That really is a huge part of why I'm so passionate about this. And also, it's just about, what do we want our future society to look like, right? The people who are going to shape our society are the young men and women, boys and girls who will eventually be the men and women who lead this country. And if we allow the left to poison them, whether through things of a sexual nature, like I discussed in my article, or through critical race theory that teaches them to hate themselves and each other, if we allow the youth to be completely captivated and controlled by the left, we have a very dark future ahead of us. If we do not defend them, then everything else, every policy disagreement is completely irrelevant.
You are Chief of Staff of the California College Republicans. Just a real quick comment on how you think things are going to work out with Gavin Newsom. And I saw the poll numbers today. It looks like it's getting very, very close. And one Republican seems to be standing out.
Well, the California College Republicans, our board just unanimously voted to endorse Larry Elder. So I'm very, very excited for his campaign. And the California College Republicans are very, very excited to take a role in supporting him. Newsom has absolutely, his administration has been a train wreck for California. And we've seen a state that has already been struggling, just absolutely decline at a breakneck pace. I've seen San Francisco, and if you look at it when I was a child, when I went there on family day trips versus now, it has gotten immeasurably worse. And the Newsom administration is largely responsible for a lot of the decline that we've seen in recent years.
Spencer, thank you so much. God bless. Keep up the good work. An intern at the Federalist, college student at Pepperdine, Spencer Lindquist.